Hey everyone, Jeremy from Soaring Eagle Bushcraft here. Just wanted to do a little short video for you today on a few of my knives that I take out in the woods when I'm doing camping and bushcrafting. And I've got a couple different styles on each side of me here. On this side, these are all custom handmade knives that I've acquired, most of them actually over the last year, and one of them I've done a little work on myself, but I want to show those to you. I want to start with the ones on my left hand side. These are the non-customs, but some very good knives as well, and I want to talk a little bit about each one as we go. So I'm going to start off with the Mora knives. I'm sure all or most of you are familiar with Mora. Very good quality, very reasonably priced knives, and you know, they're not the top of the line, they're not the most rigid. This one has, I believe it's a 3/32 thick blade. This is carbon steel on this one. I've used this one for probably carving spoons more than anything else, but it's a nice rubbery grip, very comfortable in the hand. The blade is very easy to work with. I like it for small blades. The sheath itself is, you know, nothing special, nothing expensive. Excuse me for sweating. It's very hot and humid out here today. But I like it because it has the drain hole in the bottom. So if you would have moisture, it would get into the sheath as you're out camping or whatever you might be doing. It would drain out of there and not stay, fill up the handle or the sheath, sorry, with moisture to make a blade rust in a quick way. So really do like this knife. It's very inexpensive. My brother got this one for me a few years ago for my birthday, and I really like it. So just one of my inexpensive but nice knives that I like to take to the woods. And while we're on the Mora subject, this is one of my more recent purchases. Got this one at Smoky Mountain Knife Works. More of a novelty knife, I think, than actually a super good user, but nonetheless, I think it is still a decent knife. I have played with it a little bit. This one is another Mora. This was stainless steel, thinner blade yet, and would be used on smaller tasks. I would not use this on anything heavy. I know there's lots of discussions on whether we should use knives for splitting wood, but this one would not even cross my mind to do tasks such as that. Excuse me for a minute. Trying to get through this without sweating too badly. But again, another plastic sheath with the drain hole in the bottom. This one I bought, the red I chose just because I know it's easy to drop a knife in the woods, and the one I had earlier, the companion. This one, very dark green, would blend in very well with the greenery of the woods, get lost pretty easily. Not to say I still won't take it, but this one I thought it'd be nice to have a red one to take out there just in case I did drop it. Now, of course, in the fall time when you get the leaves off the tree, you get red and oranges would blend in more. So, like I said, we all know that when we go into the woods, we take different tools for different times and different experiences we're having. So this would be a good one to take in the summer and the spring. This one might be better in the fall. Would not blend in with the leaves as much when the color is there. But this is a Light My Fire, and it's a very cool little, like I said, novelty knife. Has the ferro rod built into the handle. You know, it's not a very large one, and probably wouldn't last real long if you used it all the time trying to start fires. But it still would work in an emergency case. I've struck it a few times, but it's nothing super. But it does throw a good spark. So. And I do think that the way it locks in the handle is pretty solid. I don't think it's going to fall out on you. With the lanyard on there, it also makes it a little easier to see if it were to fall out, which I highly doubt that it would, but still a nice little knife. Next one I want to talk about is one that probably most of us are familiar with. I was probably one of the last ones to get one of these, but the Condor Bushlore. And I feel with this knife, I may have gotten a lemon of the bunch, but I decided to hang on to it just because I like working on knives myself. But talked with some other bushcrafters and told them my experience, and they said, yeah, I think you got a bad one. Theirs didn't seem to be as poor a quality as mine, but the handle started separating. The finish on the handle was not wonderful. I've actually done some sanding on it myself. Actually, I had to re-glue one of the handles on the one side, and it seems to be holding up pretty well now. I do like the sheath, Pathfinder logo on here, which is where I picked this knife up from. I love leather sheaths. I know they don't hold up in the weather as well. They're not as durable and rigid, but I love the natural leather, just like I prefer a wooden handle on my knives. Very comfortable knife again with a Scandi grind on this one, being a carbon steel. I really love this knife, and they're also fairly inexpensive. Again, I think we have a thinner blade than most. I believe it's 1/8 inch thick on this one, but still very a nice knife for what it is. I've touched the blade up a couple times and it gets the edge back pretty quickly. Fairly easy to sharpen with the carbon steel blade like this one. So another one of my favorites to play around with that I don't worry about hurting. Not like if you had a $300 knife where you'd want to be, baby it a little bit and be more careful. So just another very good knife. Next one I want to share. This is one I actually bought used. The Tops Bob knife, Brothers of Bushcraft. I've done a little bit of modification to this one since I've purchased it off a friend. It wasn't really in bad shape at all. It did have a little bit of rust on the blade. Patina that was on it, I polished off a little bit. It's already got some more back on. Again, another user, not one that I'm worried about hurting or abusing. This one has a much thicker blade, as you can see. Used for more tasks where you can really push on it and beat on it a little bit if you wanted to do some batoning. I've done a little bit, just try it out. I'm not a huge person that promotes batoning with a knife, but I have done a little bit just to try out some knives, just put them to the test, see what they'll hold up to, and this one has performed very well for me. So on the back end of this, if you're not familiar, this used to extend out farther. This knife has a Kydex sheath and has a built-in, not just ferro rod, but it has 3 small rods, 2 magnesium and 1 ferrocerium rod in the back end. And then on the back end, the pommel end, whatever you want to call it, used to have your striker at the end of that. It was very awkward to use. I didn't care for it. I didn't like the looks of it. I had seen where another person had one and had cut that off, and I really liked the looks of it. I think it dressed it up a little bit nicer, a little more comfortable. You don't have to worry about catching it on anything. But a very handy knife, very comfortable with the bearing built in on both sides of the handle for doing your own bow drill fire. We've already got the bearing built in, so I don't have my bow drill over here right now, but just to demonstrate, but to show you that it does have the divots in here that were created for that. Handles, scales are removable. I've actually had these off of here so I could do the work on the butt end of this. Very nice knife. I have considered, and may still do, is this has I don't know if it's a powder coating or some type of coating on it, protect it, but I may take that off, clean the whole thing up, and blue it with some gun bluing. Just a thought. Always looking for new ideas and things that I don't quite like, I will address myself. So this particular one, when I got it, I said I bought it off of a friend. The ferro rod and the magnesium rods kind of loose in the Kydex, would slide out, so they actually had a Ranger band. Looks like a homemade one made out of a inner tube. I've got a few of those I've made myself, but very durable sheath. I do like the clip. Can be rotated. It's very stiff, so it won't fall and loosely rotate on you, but you can rotate it to do a vertical carry, or you can do a horizontal, whichever direction. If you want to do a cross draw, you could flip it around and put it on the other side, but really like the sheath as well as the knife on this one. Last one on this side. This is one that was actually given to me. The guy that owns Colonial Knives, Steve, his last name escapes me right now, but another knife forum that I'm on. He asked if anybody would be interested in trying one of these out, that all you had to do was report back and give a review on it, and I did that. But this is a much larger knife. Of all my large knives, this is probably my favorite, and you can see it's a little dirty, it's a little tarnished, it's been worn. I've used this, which is what Steve had asked us to do. I really have put this one through a lot. I've done some major batoning with it. I've used it for chopping. It's held up very good. The blade on this one is a 154 CM, which is probably one of my favorite rust inhibitive blades. The steel is a good quality, not the easiest to sharpen, but I've sharpened it and it does pretty well. I actually carry a Benchmade knife that has the same steel every day, but really love the feel of this. It has a nice micarta handle and is not slippery at all. It's a very heavy knife, would do a lot of large tasks for me if I needed to. And I've even used it for some smaller things, so I've done a little bit of carving with it. But this has a nice heavy Kydex sheath as well. This one is snaps in very tightly, almost as good as the Tops Bob knife. And the different thing on this that I want to point out is the clip and the way it goes onto your belt is it's adjustable in many different directions. It has a button here that releases it to open it up, and then you can snap this onto your belt. Snaps pretty hard, and it also has where you can slide it, which locks it, so you can't accidentally push the button and release it if you're bending down or something where you might bump it. So it's in the lock position now. There's no way, even if you push this, it's going to come open. You have to slide it back over and then push down. But this particular one has got 2 screws in it, and you can see it's got a series of 9 different holes, and you can adjust this with the different hole positions that are in the eyelets on the sheath, and you can position it in any different spot on the width. So if you wanted it to ride vertically on your belt, you can adjust how high it rides just by moving the screws into different holes. And then you could also turn it in whichever direction. It can go 360 degrees basically, and you could do it any one of 4 different directions of mount, however you want to put it on. So that's very handy. This is kind of bulky. You can see it's kind of a thick clip, but I've wore it quite a few times and it doesn't seem to bother me a bit. But very nice knife, and I'm very happy with it, and glad I had the opportunity to get this one. So on the other side, I've got, like I said, some handmade, custom-made knives, and I'll share the names of the guys that have made them, and how the different tasks that they're used for are certainly different, and by all means for what you would be doing in the bushcraft. Like again, the Colonial knife is very large, and I'll leave this out of the sheath just to do some comparison, but would not be very good if you were doing some very fine carving, I don't think, for a long time if you wanted to do some stuff like that. So I'm going to leave it, do some comparison. So one of the knives I bought within the last 6 months, probably most of you, without even me mentioning the name, would know who the maker is of this one. And this is a Jeff White knife. I've never met Jeff, but I can tell by the quality of the work that he does. It's a very nice knife. Has the curly maple handle on it, a nice smooth feel. One thing I did do on this is at the back end of the blade here, and this is a French style, and you know Jeff makes the old time style. He's trying to replicate what they did back in the early days and settlement days of knives, and I think he's done a fine job of that. But it had a very sharp corner that came out here that when it's in your hand would be poking into your finger. I didn't like that, so I did a slight modification to this one, and it's much more comfortable now. It's less risk, so I've kind of rounded it over on the edges as well, so it's not sharp like it was. But this one is a very nice knife. I would probably use this one more even for cutting food and stuff like that. I like the rustic look, but you know, if I'm out in the woods and I got to cut up some chicken or some steak, or most of the time I'm probably eating ramen noodles out there because I can't afford the steak all the time. But anyways, very handy knife for that kind of work. And I'm not expert at leather work, but I wanted a sheath for this one, so I decided to make my own. So this is one of my first leather jobs here, and seems to fit pretty well. So I'm pretty happy with how it came out for not having much experience with it. So very nice custom knife there. The next knives I want to share, there's 2 of them here. These are from a maker, a guy in New York. His name's Greg Dashevsky. It goes by Greg Dash, and he and I worked out a deal, and I ended up with 2 of his knives, and I'm very, very happy with them. Both of them have a D2 tool steel blade. Got his initials on the side, Greg Dash, and this is probably my favorite of all the knives I've seen that he's made. It has the it's called snake skin or whatever micarta, where it's got the different colors as you're singing through. They come out, so it's got the lighter brown, a darker brown, and the green. I don't know if you can see that or not, but very neat looking. Just love the color variations in it, and I love the feel. You can see the comfort in the handle of this thing, how it fits in my hand. No risk of slippage on this if I'm doing some fine work. So I think this is a very nice knife for smaller tasks in the woods. Has I think it's an 1/8 inch thick, might even be 5/32 thick blade on this one, but I carry this quite a bit in my car. I'm going to work and back or whatever tasks may come ahead. Don't usually carry it on my side, although I probably could. Has a nice lanyard hold if I needed to carry it on lanyard, but got a nice leather sheath. It's been wet formed, very nice fit, very tight going into the sheath, but once it's in there, it's a very nice fit. So very small. And again, I may do another video later on where I can get more into the details, talking about the blade thicknesses more specifically and accurately, and the blade lengths. If anybody wants to know, I can share those with you. But really love this knife. It's one of my favorites. And part of the deal that Greg and I worked out, I ended up getting this. And by the way, this one's called the Jackal, is what he named it, and I even like the name. It's kind of cool. But the next one, and this was not one that I was looking for, but he offered it and said, hey, part of the deal, I'm giving you this one. This is called the Bite. As you can see, the knife actually snaps onto the sheath, and that's what holds it in so it doesn't slide out. And it's meant to be set up as a cross draw knife. So I would carry this on the left side of my belt, over here on this side, and it could be used as self-defense, or if I just needed a knife quickly, I can just flip this snap off, draw it out, and it's really easy to get at. Much smaller blade on this, also D2 as I mentioned. Got his initials on the other side. This one is a black micarta. Still, even at the size it is, still very comfortable, and because it has the leather lanyard that snaps into the sheath, it's stitched on there, kind of gives you a little bit more to hang on to with your little finger back there, so it actually makes it feel like an extended handle. It's more comfortable than if you didn't have that, where your little finger would be hanging off the back side. But very nice for very small tasks. I suppose if you were doing something in the woods, I'm not a hunter, but if you were skinning an animal, I've heard you don't really need a large blade. This probably would even work well for that. But this is meant more for self-defense, and that's what I typically have carried it for. Very cool knife. I like it. Next one I'm going to share with you is one that I've done some work on myself. I actually had some handle material sent to me by a knife friend, Jane Carter, who is the owner of iKnife Collector. Just a little word for her. Website that I hang out on often with a lot of knife people. If you get a chance and you're not a member there, I encourage you to go check it out. It's small I knife collector, one word, and they do a lot of nice stuff on there. And Jan had sent me a couple pair of slabs to use for knife scales. These are zebra wood, and I'd had them for probably a year, and I finally decided I needed to do something with them. So while I was at Smoky Mountain Knife Works, I was looking for the blanks, blades that were needed handles, and everything else was already done. They were ground and heat treated and ready to go. This blade blank was made by Alabama Damascus, and I've not really done a lot with the knife since I put the scales on it, but I do like the looks of how it turned out, and very comfortable in my hand. I put in the leather lanyard on the back end of it, so I'm going to make a sheath for this one, and that's probably my next project leather wise. And once I get that made, I'll probably carry this more and take it to the woods and see how it holds up. So last but not least, this is probably my most favorite knife right now, and I haven't really used it much, but this is a custom knife I got from Clinton Armstrong, who owns a company, Deer Creek Wilderness Outfitter, out of Indiana, and really impressed with the workmanship he's done on this. I have cut a little bit with it, but it shaved the hair off my arm coming right out of the box when I got it. He has offered a deal to several of us, and I took him up on it, and the deal was we get to design our own knife and send it to him, and if he accepted the design, he would make the knife for a given price. So I was excited to do that, so I drew this knife up. It was my design. I sent it to him. Very limited on what we could have. It was going to be either 3/32 or 1/8 inch thick 1095 steel. I chose the 1/8 inch, and then the offerings for the handle material was the curly maple or the micarta. And I went with micarta. I think it's a very durable material, and was very happy with it, and it feels very comfortable in the hand, very balanced, very good weight to it. I just love it overall. I've got a guy who does custom leather work. I'm going to have him make a sheath for this, so once I do that, I will come back and talk a little bit more about the knife and the sheath all together. But we look forward to carrying this one. I've not done a lot of camping this year and intend to get out and do some this fall as it cools off and things slow down. I will be carrying this knife for many trips. I'd really like to get it out there and try it out, but very happy with it, and very happy with all the knives I have here. I'm excited to get out and use them some more. So that's it on the knives that I have here. Again, I know there's probably going to be questions on the different materials and thicknesses of blades and things like that, but feel free to ask any questions that you want. I'll try to respond to each and every one of you. Appreciate you watching, and you'll see me soon again with some more videos. I got a lot more equipment I'd like to get out here and share with you. So again, thanks for taking time to watch. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you would. Share it, like it, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks.